Hi, I'm IKEA, and for today's video, I want to ramble on for a bit about Seasons 2.0, and somewhat more specifically, seasonal characters, and some of the uproar that has existed about them in the community. We're going to go through it in three separate kind of chapters. First, I'm going to talk about what I think the end result of seasonal characters will be, because I think I differ in my conclusions from somewhat the louder parts of the community. And also, while I'm not sure about if what I'm kind of thinking about it will be true, I'm kind of also weirded out that they're so sure that it is the way that they think it is going to be. That will also lead then into a second part that will be about the community. Not so much the entirety of it, but the loud part, the loud majority, minority, whatever it is. And yeah, the disdain they've shown and the lack of self-awareness in some parts. And also, I just want to yell at them, basically. And lastly, I want to, in the third part, we're going to yell once more, and this time at the developers, but so much more so the massive as an entity, basically. Not so much the devs, much more so their communication, as we'll go into some yelling that way as well, just so we cover all the yells. So yeah, let's start off by discussing what my thoughts are kind of about seasonal characters. And to start discussing seasonal characters, that's why I'm on the character select screen here. This is my main account, and these are my 4 characters on it as we go through them. And on their playtime as well, actually, let's discuss those. Yeah, this is 140 days. That is 101 days. That is 79 days. And last but not least, but actually least, 55 days. I've played a lot of Division on my main account. I have the SHD to back that up as well. And yeah, over time, I've become attached to these characters. Now, this is my main account, and especially as well, for instance, if you're smart, you leave a character slot free for a watch alt or something. I'm not choosing to do that. I filled them all up a long time ago, partially as well because I wanted to play the game somewhat as intended, quotation marks, but also I quite actually enjoyed not having way too many resources available to me to kind of have to play 4 resources as well, and I get by without. I do spend my watch points. Most of these characters are on under 1k of watch points saved up. Basically, they don't have thousands and such saved up, as I usually use that, of course, to update builds on the build collection and stuff like that. And yeah, for instance, as well, as some people say, why don't you just delete one? And yeah, that would be, for instance, if I were to delete one, well, first of all, I would have to stash away 16 builds if I wanted to keep them, or if I wanted to remake them all, that would also take some time. Then also I would have to, at the very least, delete a character that has, I've been around with for 55 days and 15 hours and 39 minutes. That is not something I'm willing to do. There is an attachment there for me to all of these characters, as I've played them all. They're all, special to me, basically. So I wouldn't want to lose them. And that's also not my takeaway from what seasonal characters are, because generally in, for instance, the one game that I've really actually interacted with seasonal characters, which was Diablo 3, where I did a seasonal character and also was playing with others that were doing that as well. What generally ended up my feeling on seasonal characters, and I've seen this more so as well in other games, how people play them, they're much more so of a side act than your main character. Your main character is still the one that you just, grind on and try to get them as high as possible, and then the seasonal character is just there as a bonus. In Division, we already kind of have something similar, which is hardcore. That's also why I don't see the point of people going like, oh, we're losing our ability to use the main character. There is some of that, because, yeah, as it stands now, or as we understand it, the main character is not going to be a story focus anymore. But I'm kind of okay with that. The manhunt, for me, they're kind of... It doesn't, to me, really matter what character it is on. If it's on a seasonal character or on a main character or such. And the reason is because outside of the character, I exist. I'm going to still experience it. It's the same as getting all the comms on all characters or something. I get all the comms on this character. This is a character I get all of the comms on because I'll experience them. I don't need all of my characters to have all of them because with the seasonal characters, it doesn't matter if I'm doing it on this character or if I'm doing it on a different character. But then, though, of course, the question is, why would you then care that the season? Why would you do a seasonal character? Why not just let it be on this? And that seems to be much more the idea to force us, and that's the downside of it. They're forcing us to start anew, to start from scratch, so that they can kind of, in a much more controlled way, get us through a story. They already do that, of course, in the main campaign. You kind of level at a steady rate. But yeah, on all of these characters, for instance, whatever challenge you throw at me, I have on all of them, I have a strikers. On most of them, I have Eclipse. I have PFE if it gets hard and there's way too many leads. I have drone hybrids if we just have to slow boat through it and survive. I have an answer to any question that they will put in front of me, content-wise. That's also why, for instance, the climax missions and stuff, they're not hard if you have the right tool for them. For instance, for me, I find with most of the missions that are somewhat designed almost as if to be an FU to red builds, if I'm in there with a tech tank, they already hurt a lot less. And of course, even for lower players, that will give them the ability to do it in a lower difficulty, so they could just do the climax mission on normal and just skate through. But at the end of the day, yeah, there is an idea, of course, that why not just do it on the main characters? And the thing is, we don't have clear communications. So one of the things that they did put out, and I'll link this down below, is that they set out an FAQ, but their FAQ kind of needs an FAQ because it answered a few of our questions, mostly how the character slot will work and stuff. I'm not going to read through this whole document. I'm going to assume that most people have at least a passing understanding of what's in here because a lot of people have talked about it. And it will be linked down below, so if you want to go read it for yourself. It answers a lot of the questions that we had, but also leaves a lot of questions open, because especially in here, they're talking about modifiers a lot and not defining what they are. Not even giving a hint as to, this might be a modifier or that might be a modifier, because it really depends on that. If, for instance, they're rebalancing in there, kind of, in a seasonal setting, for instance, consider that, they take strikers down 20%, to heartbreakers then as well, because you have to few other builds down so that other things rise to the top. So just a rebalancing. I could see that being pretty enjoyable, having to re-establish a meta, basically what the general meta will become, or just trying to rebuild an understanding of the new systems, because once you rebalance stuff, and then also they're kind of talking about maybe bringing some of the changes over. That's the reason I also think that maybe there might be rebalancing that would be interesting, because it could basically be as an extended PTS and kind of get the kind of a response from the community, see what that is to the changes before they implement them, basically for the entirety of a season. There are interesting things you can do with seasonal characters, even if they went just as a modifier. No gear sets for this season. That would completely shift how we play the game. Now, for instance, for a thing like that, we already know how to set up high ends to do. For instance, the damage parts, PFEs were already that. We could make tech tanks with that. Headhunters without gear sets is fine as well. The only real place we would be missing is, for instance, Eclipse. So, but we would find, whatever high end setup would work the best, and we would go with that. It would still be a little shift, a little jump that way. And that could be interesting. But that's the thing. This could be interesting. It might be something, but it might be nothing. But that is the takeaway that I have from this. That's why I'm also so surprised that a lot of people are a little bit more averse at this point. Going as far as to call other people brainwashed and in the pockets of a big Ubisoft or something. Yeah, I always find that a little bit distasteful, and some of the more vocal parts of the community have especially done that. And I think in the end, for instance, for me, what will happen with something like a seasonal character, it's gonna end up kind of like a hardcore character. It's a thing that you play a little bit here and there. It is separated, segregated from the rest of of the game, basically, having its own matchmaker, having its own play, basically its own stash as well. It is basically a softcore, hardcore character. And I'm not wholly against that because, for instance, let's jump to my second account. And that is this one as my second account. And here as well, I have a one character where I have a lot of playtime in. This is also, for instance, character 5 on the build collection. And yeah, I would just wanted to discuss the part where, you know, starting over, as some people go like, who would ever want to start over? I've literally seen that, or why would you ever? Or, well, sometimes you can choose to. I chose to. I did seasonal characters before they were cool. I'm a seasonal character hipster, and I've done it twice. As I also have a third account, which is 2K at this point. That's started 2 seasons ago, basically. And why would you do this? Because it was a lot of fun. I got to start over with the knowledge that I had, but without the tools that I'm accustomed to. I didn't have a stash full of gear, because even if you just make one more character, you have a stash full of gear. If you choose to, you can just go and grab that. But even more so, there are parts where you can't just leave it out because expertise and proficiency are account wide. Same for instance, the recalibration library, that is also account wide. So starting over fully can only really be done on a fresh account, and I chose to do so, and I chose to do so twice. Once, this one, for instance, as an account started way back when they started the replay of the seasons. So we went from season 1 to 4, and then they kind of did the replay of them. And I started it back then just because I did want a fresh start. I kind of also wanted to know at that point how it would be for newer players. And that is also the reason why I started the third account in the end. I kind of, again, wanted to see how it is for newer players. And that was a lot of fun. And I chose to do that. Does me playing this account invalidate my main accounts? No, that still exists. And this even, for instance, allows for some shenaniganery with dual boxing. For instance, I can carry myself through, in the past, what would be a Woni run. I could carry myself and others usually, but that made it that I would always benefit, basically, so I could carry with my main account, the second account, just boost them, group scale them through Woni, back when that was relevant. And 2 others as well in the meantime, and stuff like that. Although, of course, that is extreme things to do, to try to dual box. When you're going into dual boxing into games, you've already gone too far, basically. But none of these characters or accounts invalidated the other accounts because, again, as I was talking about, at the end of the day, I don't care what character of mine experiences what thing. I will experience them. I'm the person behind the character. That is a point that I feel is kind of lost, that people could, for instance, as well, choose to do this. Now, of course, this is different. You're kind of being forced, but also all of these people, well, not all, but some of these people that have been making the point of, oh, I don't want to ever do a seasonal character, and then they also go, the story sucks. If the story sucks to you, which agreed, actually, somewhat. The story in Division isn't a core thing to me. I don't care that much about the story. That's also why I'm not that pissed off at like the plot twist with Kelso or something. It was kind of badly done, and but also at the start of the season, she started with who's Vanguard, and that already kind of set the tone for me. Kelso would know who is Vanguard. Like, if one person would know what Keener's call sign was, that would be her. And yeah, it was Story-wise, I'm not that invested. To me, the story is much more of a lore. I kind of like thinking about it here. We like kind of discussing it here and there, but it isn't. It isn't the core thing. To me, always the core thing is I enjoy the gameplay of the Division. I like the classless system that where your gear just is your class basically, and the gameplay to me will keep me engaged for thousands of hours to come, likely, together with the theory crafting behind it and trying to understand its mechanics, because the game is pretty deep. some parts as well unintendedly deep, as we went into, for instance, wrong text recently. But it is a thing that I enjoy playing to this day. That's also, for instance, why I see a lot of players kind of being dismissive already. And the thing is, you have to still enjoy playing the game to begin with. Let's go actually talk about somewhat parts of the community as I want to let's put our on our angry face and yell at some people. And yeah, let's discuss the community. Although, of course, I'm going to be addressing the entire community, but the parts I'm talking about are, hopefully, I would hope, just small parts of the community. Especially, I know for a fact that it is the parts that I'm going to be talking about, which are mostly the people that have been very vitriolic and circle jerky about this. Those parts, especially, what we could call some bad apples infecting other apples. They have made it so that, for instance, for me, I have actually quit something Division 2. It isn't the game. It is parts of the community. I've left several discords where the leadership has been very circle jerky and trying to get everybody to just, grab their pitchforks and go. I left the Reddit because fuck that hellhole for a little bit. I'll go back in some weeks' time when everything's settled down, because there is actually sometimes interesting things going on there and some info coming out there, and sometimes I add my own info there as well. But yeah, the community has definitely. I'm not mad. I am disappointed. Not in the entirety of it, of course. There's also plenty of people giving pushback. Some people just going, "Hey, let's wait and see. It might be something. It might be nothing." And some parts have just gone all in and just hateful rhetoric. Partially as well because it is the same people that I generally see, because most of the people that I've seen being quite aggressive in their stance are the same people I always see being shitheads on the Reddits, on Discords. The people that have been allowed to be hateful for a long time, to just espouse just bullshit whenever they get the chance. Because for the large part, of course, in a long-running community, there will always be people like this. We let them get by because it's generally not a hill worth dying on. Some people, just going over and over. The devs are shit. They still haven't fixed fragile armor. This is still broken. That is still broken. I hate this game. It's an abusive relationship. Okay, why are you playing the game then? To the rest of us, it isn't. Because your view of a game, your view of anything, even unimportant things, your friends, family, your significant other, maybe your pets, you get to decide somewhat how you feel about them. Because what you think about them is what you will feel about them. To me, on the Division side, there is plenty of things wrong, but there is more right than wrong. There is no other game that makes me feel like the Division 2 out there. I will take all of its flaws and still be happy. It's the same way as if you're thinking about your significant other and you're just going about it going, I hate the way they smell, I hate the way they think, I hate the way they laugh, I hate the way they sleep. yeah, you're not going to be happy. You, and then also leave that relationship. If everything about them you hate, why are you in that relationship? With the Division 2, there are so many players that have been around for thousands upon thousands of hours and had let themselves become that little hateful piece of shit. And we let them, of course. It's not a hill worth dying on, but you should give them pushback. And I encourage giving pushback. Have been watching some others people's opinions for this video. And honestly, I couldn't help myself but give some pushback against some of these people. That will sour some relationships. I'm fine with that because honestly, I wasn't into some of those anyway. One of the things we would call this in an old clan of mine was Al Bundy's. For those that don't know Married with Children, it's an old sitcom. Al Bundy was a shoe seller. He hated his life. He hated his wife. Although, of course, he really didn't. He loved his wife, and that was the joke. And this little, anti-hero kind of thing, you were supposed to laugh at him. So many people thought they should live like him. Sarcasm is the plague of our age, as a murderous man once said in GTA 5. It is okay to like something. It is okay to think about something and also have the positives and the negatives. You don't have to just be sucking its balls. You can also punch him in the balls. It's okay. It's okay to like something. I feel this is something lost on way too many human beings, where they think that if you admit to liking something, it will give you cooties or something. An infantile view of existence. It exists in them. They know they like the thing. Why would you spend thousands of hours upon a game if you truly don't like it anymore? But also there is, of course, the simple fact that for some of them, it does hold true. They should actually move on. That was also one of the things that I actually wanted to post to Reddit. I held myself off from doing that. And that was that my response to everybody going, I quit. I am going to quit over this. This is quit worthy and stuff. My answer to that would be, please do. That may sound snide. It's not meant to. It's meant to little. It's a little bit for me, a little bit for them. But the please do is also an please, actually. Some people have been in this game and have been doing the same thing for the last thousands upon thousands of hours. Just seeing a number go up and just, small dopamine hits from the SHT level. But they haven't really been playing the game. They have been just working at the game almost at that point. It is. And then also putting themselves in this negative mind space of just, I hate the game, those are shit, everything's broken, fragile armor is still bugged, all of this shit. And and they don't see it, that this is what they're doing. They're hating the mines, but then still going out into the mines and mining. It was time to move on for them thousands of hours ago. They should have done so. Should have realized to do so. But of course, they're in communities. They're wanting to, keep themselves in, there is a spot that they're comfortable in, so they want to be comfortable in that spot. It is understandable. It is human to want that. But there is a point where you just have to decide to move on. And I feel a lot of these people should have. Part of it is as well, a lot of these people, the same names I saw coming across in a lot of Discords, the same names I saw coming across in a lot of Reddits, they're the same players that always go like, Snowmith is shit, it doesn't have windows, Countdown is shit, it's just a running simulator, Descent is shit, because I don't have my shit in there. Incursion is shit, because matchmaking sucks for it. Raids are shit, because you can't matchmake at all for it. They don't want to try any of the things that were added. Because none of those things are shit. None of them are. No, never were. They're enjoyable parts of the game. Everything from Summit, even if you want to reduce it to that, it's still other content and a little bit different than the rest of the game, where you have to deal with other things like the jammers much more so than you do in the open world or missions. Descent actually forces you to actually understand the game quite well before you can really go deep with it. All of these things kind of feed together to make a little clumps of despicable hate in parts of the community. This is also, for instance, the reason I'm not in any clan. Currently, so many clans I've been in, they let stuff like this fester, or it even comes up from up on high. Because people that are like that, they will also try to be in communities inherently, because they want somebody to listen to their tirades. I'm, in the past, not been a fan of pushing back against that, because, you know, it is, even though they should have been pushed back against before they reached the points where they're just every day coming in and going, everything sucks again. Instead of that, they should have just been, you know, hey, dude, just chill out, take a break, or 1,000 hours ago. But now they've, of course, been allowed to do that, so they hold it as their right to do so. And pushback against that should just be that. Basically, shit happens, dude, we don't give a fuck what you think. That should be the actual response. But too many people are not into that, understandably so. You know, if you're in, the people that leave negative reviews are generally the people that aren't enjoying the game, because the people that are enjoying the game are just out there enjoying the game. And that is also the thing, for instance, why I'm, because some would say, okay, you're thousands of levels, what's keeping you in the game then? Partially because I do go for the variety. Partially there is still hundreds of things that I want to do. Several guides I want to make, several builds I want to try. I have like 3 builds in my notebook there that I still want to try out in the coming month, adding them to the build collection. You know, I want to get back into, for instance, raiding, so I'm kind of reading up on that again and trying to find some groups. I'm not feeling that. The reason partially as well is I'm making sure I'm not feeling that. I vary my gameplay up inherently. I'll do a few countdowns for a day and then I'll go like, you know, we'll leave it till I miss it again. We'll go do some descents till I get bored of that, and then some summits, and then, you know, different things at the mission, because all of those are somewhat different to each other. It's not all the same game at all times. And that's what I would recommend for others as well. And also not to look at it as if it's all shit, because it's not. It isn't. It never was. Division 2 is a beautiful game with a lot of bugs. We can say both things at once. It is okay to like a game and to actually admit that. Same here for this. Like, I'm not per se completely sold on seasonal characters, partially because they've done a shit job selling it. We'll go into yelling at the devs in the third segment here. But at least it's something new. They're trying something. I'm happier for them to try and fail and not try at all, because currently the manhunt system isn't something that I really care about. I much more care about, the global events coming back around again, farming out new gear and stuff when it comes out. Even though, for instance, in this season, the gear set wasn't great, but the brand set actually turns out to be pretty interesting. And making different ideas of builds. What happens when we, you know, go with different setups for different things? What happens when we, you know, find new things like the Heartbreak, or for the Headhunter tech tanks that have recently become available just because of the new brand set? Revisiting old things. What happens when you go Hazard Protect FI for countdown and stuff like that, as an old style that we've kind of all forgotten about. There is plenty of the game to go around, but there's also a point, and if I ever feel that, I would also just take a break. I felt that, for instance, last season, towards the end of it, I was like, you know what? I wasn't feeling burnt out, but I was like, you know what? Let's go play Division 1 for a few weeks. just do that. If you feel burned out, just take a break. And some people burn themselves out way too hard. I've seen plenty of people go for thousands upon thousands of levels during a global event. And yeah, what do you expect? To not be burned out after that? Same for when floor 10 was around. People would go for hours upon hours because it might be patched tomorrow and go for way too long and burn themselves out doing the same thing over and over again. Yeah, they reached 5-6K, but then they quit. The only reason I have a SHD level as high as I do is I just never quit. I made sure that I paced myself and here and there even took breaks or restarted fresh with a new account. Going back to seasonal characters. A fresh start can be invigorating. It's forced. I'll agree with that. It would be better if you just chose to do it. But it might just be good. It just might be good. Not sure. But I'm also not sure it's the worst thing ever. Yeah, let's go yell a little bit to the last people I'm going to yell at, which is mostly the communications team at Massive. But actually, before we go to that, I wanted to make one addendum here because there was one other point I wanted to address. And that is the appropriation of the term veteran by a large group of these people. Trying to talk about this being an fuck you to veterans, being, an anti-veteran tactic, basically. I don't feel that is true, as I aligned in the initial parts of this. But much more so, I'm against their use of the word veteran. Because, first of all, if you're going to have that be a term, well, where does that start? Where does that end? And of course, what they're going to then do is, if anybody disagrees with them, they're no true veteran, no true Scotsman. Anything you would want to have as the goalpost, as the gatekeeping for veteran, I'm going to surpass that by a lot. I have thousands upon thousands of hours in the game, over 10,000. I've a combined 30k SHD in the game. I have an above average understanding of the game, I'm willing to say. Anything you're going to ascribe to making a veteran, I'm going to surpass. At the very least, I'm generally disagreeing with the people using the term veteran to say that this is against the veterans and stuff like that. I don't see it like that at all. I think it might actually be good for some of the veterans to start anew and actually do that. In a forced way, might not be the way I would do it, but for some of them, it might be good to actually revisit the start again a little bit and just, have the basic game that where you also don't have all your tools and stuff. But of course, it's not up to me to do that. But the one thing I would say is sincerely from somebody who would definitely fit the description of a veteran, fuck you for using that term over and over again and trying to make it as if you're talking for the greater, the greater good for some of these people. They're not. They're just trying to appeal to authority, basically. It is a detestable thing to do. And I just wanted to specifically call that out still at the end of this because it just annoyed me. I wouldn't really ever call myself a veteran. It seems way too pretentious. I just usually say I'm a long-time player. But yeah, these people, I just wanted to call them out. So whenever you see people using the term veteran, just point and laugh, I feel. I just wanted to call that out, and maybe as well for some of the people that were using that term, just don't. Or trying to talk for a bigger group than yourself. That is always a bad way, a bad fate way to do an argument. Yeah, let's actually go to where we talk about the other end of things, which is massive. So yeah, let's indeed talk about the other end of the discussion, because I feel a lot of blame goes towards the community for like how they have been reacting. Small parts of it, hopefully. We will see at the end of the day. But there also is definitely some blame to be put at the feet of Massive, specifically. For me, not so much the devs, as I said in the previous segment. I'd rather they try something new and fail than not try anything at all. Which is from the dev side. Where I am taking some umbrage with them is on the communication side, as for instance happened with the Seasons 2.0. One of my biggest annoyances with this, as I yelled a lot during stream when reading this article, this little FAQ, they use the term modifier half a dozen times, such maybe even up to a dozen times. And they don't define what it is. They're talking about using modifiers to make it new and exciting, basically, the seasonal characters, and not talking about what those mean. Because, yeah, that could be as simple as 3 directives are on for an entire season, or might be as impactful as we've taken out all the gear sets for this season. We've rebalanced everything for this season. Guns were completely different for this season. Like, guns are nerfed, skills are buffed, stuff like that. It could be anything. We could think of a lot of things. They don't even give really an kind of hint to even what would be what they're kind of going towards. Likely because they don't know. Likely because they likely finished up work towards this season, and then they're kind of now, of course, working on the next season. So they might not have final values, and that might be the reason why they're so against actually telling us what it will be. And communication-wise, as always, they are quite horrendous. On the one side, I'm also sad because, for instance, it has been obvious that after the last PTS, there were no developer notes, which we've been having the seasons beforehand. Partially because a lot of those developer notes were also poorly received, so I'm kind of afraid that is the reason. It was correct for them to be received in a bad way, because most of them included a lot of bad stuff that shouldn't have made it past the communications desk, basically. But yeah, they were better than nothing. Here again, this communication is not complete, because also, for instance, it does hint at the fact that gear will be tied to the seasonal character until the end of the season, basically meaning that we will have to wait until the end of the season to get the new brand sets and gear sets onto our main characters, onto our non-seasonal characters. That kind of sucks. What it really does is actually basically just delay us getting those for a few months. It's not a thing we can't overcome. But it doesn't outright say it, which still leaves speculation. That FAQ should have answered all of our questions in depth, quite in depth. It didn't do so. And yeah, that's been the case for a lot of their communication. I feel their communication needs to be better. Also, their communication needs to be there about, for instance, now as well, we're kind of waiting for a few patches for a few things. They haven't really been vocal about when those are going to come and when we could expect them. Would be nice to know. For instance, their communication has always been poor. But I'd rather have that, the communication being poor, than actually the things that are happening being poor. So I'm okay with it, but it's definitely something to point out on the dev side, and definitely something that they need to work on, together with their QA that has been atrocious for the last few seasons. I would say that some things are basically unacceptable. The talent issue was unacceptable. The PlayStation bug was unacceptable. And now the crafting bug that also came and went and got patched out and then got put back in. It existing on the first hand was unacceptable, and then later on also unacceptable. All of these are, issues that we're going to just have to deal with if we enjoy the game enough. And I definitely do. So I'll just think about them, go like, well, that sucks. I can't really enact anything to change that anyway. So I'll just be cognizant of them and just move on where possible. Work around it where possible. And for instance, entice people to, for instance, not use the crafting bug and just kind of take the fun out of the game for themselves, as its farming gear is very much part of the game. I wish they did better, but that's sometimes the thing, of course. They're doing the best they can. That's also one of the things that I was kind of miffed about as the antagonism towards the developers and Massive as a whole, and Ubisoft by extension and such, where a lot of these people are going just as acting as if the devs are always our enemy or such. They're not. They never are. They never were. They're just people trying to do their job with minimal resources at this point, and succeeding in parts, because we should address that as well. It's not that they're just failing. The game is in a better spot now than it was a year ago. There have been additions and such that were worthwhile. If nothing else, the rework of optimization and recalibration, becoming tinkering, being able to donate from anywhere, for instance, for expertise with that as well. It's actually a pretty good addition. The incursion, as much as the same people that now are yelling that they're going to quit were before that, I remember going, this is going to be shit. Turned out there wasn't. It wasn't the greatest thing ever either, but it was overall, it's a pretty well received and often used piece of content. It's okay. They have improved the game overall versus years ago, especially if we go back to season 9 periods when there were a lot of crashes. Nowadays, I'm more surprised if I crash once in a blue moon, once every few weeks or something. Outside of Countdown, of course, because Countdown still has that crashing bug at the end, which causes a lot of issues, but in the open world, I feel I crashed once in the last month, which definitely was not the case. Whenever season 9, 10-ish was around, the game has marginally improved here and there. We wish, of course, it would be more than that, and even more content, but it isn't. That's the reality of things. I am happier that there is still development for the game than that there wouldn't be. There is even, of course, a DLC on the horizon, and we'll look forward to that. One last thing I wanted to address here as well, as I saw some horrendous takes on the one end game thing, as well, as that is kind of part of the same announcement as well, and a lot of people were antagonistic about that as well. Although that died down pretty quickly because it was dumb. But I still, having watched a few videos about the subject from others, it came up a few times. The one end gaming thing is that basically people are letting people that don't own WONI, don't own the Warlords of New York expansion, also level to 40. They still don't get access to the New York map, nor its missions and stuff. But they're letting them get to 40. A lot of people going but I paid for that. Most of them paid either 4 years ago when WONI came out, or they paid, on sale afterwards because it's been on sale so often. And at this point as well, it was on sale for $5. And also, it doesn't actually give them WONI. The idea behind this is very simple for those that don't understand. Actually, it is a good way of getting some revenue. The people that may be enticed to come back may spend money on the game, both in stuff like cosmetics, but they might also go, I enjoy this game enough, but also I'm in a clan, sometimes they do some missions in New York and stuff, I can't join them, you know what, I'll just get Wony, it's on sale for $5. That's still a little bit of income for the devs around the way. It might entice people to come back and get Wony at some point, or just as, and then later on seasons as well, or just get season passes as well and such. It is actually a clever way, and it doesn't cost the rest of the community anything. They didn't take anything away from the rest of us. The rest of us get to keep what we had, and other people get to get access to quite a lot of other things, but not all of it. And for all of those people that as well go like, but New York sucks and stuff. Yeah, see the initial community parts. If you're not willing to do all of the content, then you don't get to. In my book, you don't get to bitch about the content if you're not also willing to at least try most of the content, because New York is actually a lot of fun running around in New York. But also parts of the story are there. So if you wanted to have the complete story, which apparently matters to a lot of people, seeing as how much they go on about the manhunts and missing them and stuff, or being locked around seasonal characters. Yeah, those are behind those. So it entices people to get that, and at a pretty slow cost. And even then, yeah, it might entice people to just come back and try the game first and getting to 40 and then seeing the end game and then going like, maybe I'll stick around a little bit and buying even more. So I saw a lot of bad takes on that, as if their money was stolen, basically, which it wasn't. Let's go to a conclusion where we'll tie these thoughts all together and we'll end it off there. And to conclude this ramble, first off, to kind of recap my thoughts on it, on what seasonal characters are going to, I think, will become, is that they're just going to be another game mode, basically, for us, in the same way that a hardcore character would be for some people that are willing to try that. It is a fresh start. The only annoying thing is that it's somewhat forced if you want to go into the story, but also would not be necessary if you are willing to not want to experience the story yourself. I think much bigger than the concern of our current characters, our non-seasonal characters becoming useless, is much more so that the seasonal character will, of course, be kind of useless after its season. That to me still is not something I'm completely sold on. And they need to also come forward and actually explain what is going to be special about the seasons, because that's the thing that is going to make or break it. If there are whatever their modifiers are going to end up to be, that's going to actually be the important part of it. If those modifiers are enjoyable in some way, and there are many an idea you could put there, everything from the complete rebalance of everything to having not access to some sets and such that are now currently, for instance, the meta and such. You could do a lot of interesting things with it, but that's the thing. They could do a lot of interesting things with it. Will they? They haven't explained that well enough to us. The knee-jerk reaction from the community really rubbed me the wrong way. It is sad that is, the community of the game that I love. Although, of course, again, it's not the entirety of the community. It's hopefully a loud minority, I would say. Definitely the parts that are too far are definitely small parts of the community, because it's the same dozen people on the Reddit, for instance, that I've seen say shit like that over and over again for years, and partially for me as well. When they say I'm gonna quit over this, I'm kind of going like, yeah, at least there's one good thing about seasonal characters, then that is guaranteed. Although, of course, the thing is with all of them, I'm venturing a guess that these are the same people that were going to quit when rotation was added to the sun. These are the same people that were going to quit when, whatever changed, when Heartbreaker got nerfed, when Striker got changed, when, they've been yelling they're going to quit. seen some of these names return over and over again. We're going to quit over, the combat lock, which totally happens as one of the parts, that could be a way of addressing this if we really, if they come out with the rest of the ideas and we go like, this is sucks, they could drop it. That is definitely an option for them. They've done so in the past because the combat lock totally happened, right? After the backlash from the community. But back then as well, these were the same people that were like, I'm quitting over this. And yeah, they have quit already a dozen times over a dozen things that actually did happen as well. And yeah, they're still around, sadly. I feel almost bad in saying that, but also at this point, I'm kind of done with it. And yeah, the devs, massive more so. The dev side of it, I'm okay with them that they're trying out new ideas, or wanting to try at least new ideas. I'd rather have that. As I said, I'd rather have them try and fail than not try and fail by default. But their communication is horrendous. They need to, as quite often has been my thoughts on any PTS, usually includes the part where I admonish them for their communication skills. Be better, please. Would be nice. But if that is the worst of it, I'm also kind of okay with it. I'd rather the communication be horrendous and their implementation be okay than the other way around, where their communication is okay, but their implementation is horrendous. So yeah, we have reached the long end of this rambling talk about yelling at people. A thing I don't really enjoy. That's also why I generally don't give my thoughts on things like this. I just try to kind of stick to the parts that I enjoy, which is just going, into new things and figuring them out, like talents and stuff. But yeah, sometimes I feel the need to actually interject my thoughts into this, which I hope they were at least somewhat enjoyable or somewhat informative. If you did enjoy this video, if you want to help out, please do any and all of the algorithm things. You know what they are, right? I'm not going to outright say them. For my next video, we're going to actually go into an in-depth guide of Countdown, as we'll go over that. That will be followed up actually with a video that I think will be well received, which is the Countdown or my builds that I often use for Countdown. Might be a top something. We'll see how many builds it is, and then it'll be a top that. But likely I'll just go with my picks for Countdown. And yeah, actually, I'm setting up as well for the next build showcase, likely after that, which is going to be on joke builds, which will include such standards as 511, of course, and the purple builds, and one new addition in an improvised, full 6-piece improvised Headhunter, which actually works way too good. Works way better than it has any right to. So yeah, we'll go into those in the future. I hope you join me for those. And as always, have a good night.